So Rafi, it looks like we're coming up on some sort of liquidity. As the Fed tightens, we're headed for some sort of liquidity crisis. How do you think this plays out, and how does this affect silver and gold?
Well, we could have another liquidity crisis. It certainly seems that we're in that direction, judging by the increase in unemployment, in initial unemployment claims. I think it was above estimates. I saw an article in Zero Hedge today. We're seeing bubble stocks start to go south. We're seeing stocks generally start to go south. So we're seeing the beginning inklings of this. When when it happened in 2008, right? Silver pretty much collapsed very temporarily for a few months. And 2020 was even quicker. It collapsed in 2 weeks, but then it slingshot right back up. So this next liquidity crisis, and it's coming because it happens every time the Fed raises rates, and it happens because there are not because there's a run to safety or anything, and everyone thinks the dollar is safe and they want safety. It's not that. It's that there's so much dollar denominated debt overseas because of the very trade deficits and all this exporting of dollars that the U.S. does. I think there's like $13 trillion outside the banking system in dollars. So companies borrow in dollars, and when there is a liquidity crisis, they need dollar reserves to service their debts, or else they go bankrupt and they lose their assets. So it's a flight to debt service. It's an emergency, and
Mhm.
that could happen again. And when it does happen again, the Fed can either not print and then let these companies go bankrupt, and what happens then? The bankrupt companies no longer need dollars in the dollar tanks, or they could print as much dollars as these companies need and keep interest rates under control that way. And then the purchasing power from a consumer standpoint of the dollar tanks, and and then the dollar dies that way. So either way the dollar dies. Just the question is, like, in the middle, how much of a dip in other assets are we going to have before the Fed reacts? The last time in March 2020 was 2 weeks. So we might see that in silver. We might see
Mhm.
silver go down some crazy amount for a very temporary time, but it's not guaranteed that it's going to happen. But as silverbacks, you have to understand the possibility of this. That it's happened twice before, and if it
Mhm.
happens again, you have to be ready for it, and you have to have the ammunition to do your final dip buying, because this is going to be the last one.
When the Fed
Um,
rushes back in to try to rescue from this next liquidity crisis, it's going to be what, shocking off $5 trillion, $10 trillion of
whatever
ammunition
it is,
flooded into
whatever
the
it is, it's
system.
going to be bigger than the last one. It's definitely going to be bigger than the last one. And
Hmm.
March 2020 was bigger than 2008. 2008 was bigger than anything it did before. It's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger because that's the pattern, and that's
Yeah,
how it's always been.
that's
That's how it will. I don't know exactly how long it's going to take, but what I can be pretty sure of is it's going to be quicker than it took from the maximum balance sheet after QE3. I think it was like 4.7 trillion. And then they started to push it down a little bit, and then September 2019 happened. So I think what was that? Maybe 3 or 4 years from the beginning of that descent there in 2018.
This is
Yeah,
when Yellen said it's going to be like watching the paint dry as they slowed the balance sheet to run
right. So
off
they
just
start they
organically.
started to run off the balance sheet there, and then it took, what was it, like 15, 16 months or something, until the apocalypse and rates went to
Yeah.
10%, and then they revert. So it's gonna be less time than that,
Okay.
because we're in a much crazier situation now. And everything is much less stable and more dangerous. So how long does it take? Less than it took then. So less than a year, I would say. What is happening in rates and bonds is, I mean, it's basically like the whole question of, do you think rates are going to go up? And I'm not accusing anyone of stupid questions here, but I'm saying the whole conception of, you could have a central bank come in and buy $120 billion, whatever it is, a month, and then suddenly stop buying $120 of whatever it is a month. And then what do you expect is going to happen to the price of that thing that they were buying if they stop buying? Like,
Yeah.
do you think it's gonna go down, man? That's a 5-year-old could figure that out. But nobody wants to say it, because since all real yields are negative, that means anyone who buys this stuff is guaranteed to lose money unless somebody else buys it off of them for an even higher guarantee of even more money loss. And that's
Mhm.
what central banks were doing. But now that they're not doing that anymore, anyone who buys this paper is going to have to hope that whatever central bank is going to come back in and buy it for even more of a negative rate, and there's no guarantee that that's going to happen anymore. So who would buy? There's no reason why rates should stay negative at all, and why, if nobody thought that a central bank would step in again, rates should just automatically just zip right back up to positive territory. Well, you got to think, well, there is an inkling of what market interest rates should be for insolvent borrowers. I mean, what's the interest rate on a credit card of someone who has a high balance? It's about 25% or something. I mean, I don't carry a balance on my credit card, but I know that if I did, I'd be paying about 17, 18%, and I have good credit. But but I'm not a central bank. I'm not a government. So they're ready to spike the rates up on me if I so much as have a tiny amount of balance. So I would expect that if I were a credit card company loaning to the federal government, I wouldn't loan them anything for any amount.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dahn, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dahn.